Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of the Next Generation Cowboy Creative Style. I am so very excited for today's podcast. If you couldn't tell by the title, we are talking all things how getting married for me personally changed how I view weddings as a wedding photographer because it was a totally surreal experience to be on the other side of the camera and to be experiencing it and now like seeing our sneak peeks from our wedding coming back. It's been a couple months now. And by the time this airs, I'm pretty sure I'll have my wedding photos back and just the different things that have shifted my point of view as a wedding photographer going through the experience myself. So, quick life update, I guess. Wathan and I got married. If you didn't already know, it was absolutely magical. It was everything I could have ever dreamed of and more. So we did a destination wedding in the Grand Tetons in Jackson, Wyoming. And oh my gosh, guys, it was amazing. We got married on September 7th, and it just genuinely, like, I would tell you guys if there was anything that went wrong on the day, but nothing went wrong. Like, I don't know how that's possible. Nothing went wrong. Everything went phenomenally. We did, especially considering we did a sunrise ceremony. So I actually got up at 2 a.m. for my wedding day to get ready. It was insanity. I acknowledge that, but let me tell you, the pink that was on the mountains from the sunrise, breathtaking, absolutely gorgeous. It was so worth it. Our ceremony location was at Mountain View Turnout. You have to like get a permit in the park and like all these things to have different locations, and it was like in the bright blazing sun, and Wathan and I went there a couple days before to watch the sunrise from our ceremony location, which was like such a sweet moment. But it really like reconfirmed the fact that we were like, yeah, we're glad that we're doing it at the time that we are. And we actually ended up moving it up an hour to like 7 or something like that, or 7:30. And it was absolutely amazing. God was like so in that moment. It was magical. And the entire day after that was amazing. We had an amazing wedding photographer. Her name's Caitlin. She just was phenomenal. We went and took photos around the park. And then the day, it felt just like it swept by. The day absolutely swept by, even though we were up from like 2 a.m. I was up for like a full 24 hours by the time the day was said and done, because then we took a break during the middle of the day, and I tried to take a nap. Didn't really happen. I was too like amped up, and so I like just kind of rested. And then we had dinner at our big Airbnb, a little like mini reception with our like 30 people that were there. And then we went and we had a party bus take us to the cowboy bar in Jackson, and our Airbnb was actually like an hour-ish away from Jackson. And so it was like a really fun party bus ride up there, cool experience, all of the things. So by the time we got back from Jackson on the party bus and everything, it was at least 2 a.m. So yeah, it was a full 24-hour day, and it was crazy. But coming back and reflecting on that day, I actually had a wedding the weekend after my wedding. I know, I was crazy. Insanity. But I really started noticing some just semi shifts in the way that I was capturing moments, in the way that I felt about certain moments throughout the day. And we will start to get into that in just a second. So, I guess before we go into like the areas that I've changed my viewpoint on after getting married, I want to like kind of cover things I thought about before I was married. I absolutely have always been a very intentional small moments photographer, and that has not changed. I have always like focused on those small intentional moments. They've always meant a lot to me. So those things have not changed. Other things that I was like really focused on were just like technical aspects of the day, of composition of photos, things like that, really making art shine on the wedding day. And there is nothing wrong with that. I was focused on those Pinterest perfect shots and all of those sorts of things, making sure that like the client felt like when they got their photos back that it was quote unquote the perfect day. And there's nothing wrong with that. I delivered amazing wedding galleries before I got married, and I am still so proud of that work. And I still love that work. But since my own wedding, it has had an impact on the way that I view photos and the way that I take photos and everything like that, especially just like throughout the culling process and different things like that. So, for my personal wedding, a big focus for us was on the little things throughout the day and truly making it our own experience. That's why we went and did a destination wedding in Jacksonville, Wyoming, and didn't do a big thing. I didn't want a big wedding. I wanted something with just my favorite people, the people that are still in our lives and will continue to be for years to come. I didn't want a wedding where my mom's fifth cousin was invited that I've never met in my life. And if that's something that you want, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with big weddings. There's beauty in them too. But one of our biggest focuses for our wedding were those small moments, small intentional moments with all of the people that we loved, and making everything just very calm, I guess. I didn't want any stress. I didn't want the BS. I made it very clear to everyone that I was like, don't come at me with anything. Figure it out yourself type of thing. Because I just really wanted that day to be peaceful and first and foremost for like just God's presence to have the space to enter into that marriage and covenant with us and everything like that. So for me as a bride, I obviously really cared about those intimate moments and those real moments and everything like that were happening throughout the day. And for me, it was more, I cared about the real moments and not the post moments. I do want to point this out that with my experience as a photographer, I knew how to kind of set up my schedule, set up my timeline, set up my day to have space for those moments. And then also like, not that they were posed moments in any way, shape, or form. They were very real, but allowing for the space for them and the time for them to happen was a big aspect. So sometimes with those bigger wedding days, you don't have the time to set aside just having coffee with your husband or to set aside and everyone has different priorities. So like I want to make that clear too. These were just our priorities, and but I really value those small intimate moments that weren't necessarily Pinterest worthy. And I really cared about just like the personalization aspect of our wedding photos. So let's talk about how all of that, experiencing my own wedding, being a bride, changed the way that now I photograph weddings. So in the grand scheme of things, I'm not going to say that a ton changed. There are certain aspects that we will get into that I have changed, but the way that I have always photographed photos, just since I started photography, was very candid, very unposed, I want the teardrop of your grandma watching you walk down the aisle. Like, I'm going to grab that photo over like a perfectly posed couple photo or stuff like that. So I've always been very intentional about like keeping my head on a swivel and things like that. But now I would say the way that those intentional moments and those little things happening throughout the day have shifted is that I am still going to deliver the photo if it's not aesthetic in the perfect way, if that makes sense. If I look at the photo when I'm culling and editing photos now, if it invokes an emotion, even if it's not like a Pinterest worthy photo or like maybe some of my best work, maybe the composition wasn't very great, the lighting wasn't awesome, it's a little bit blurry or like different things like that, I'm still going to figure out a way to deliver that photo, whether I have to turn it black and white because it's a little blurry or it was a really dark room or my settings weren't right or things like that. I'm still going to deliver that photo because of the emotion that it invokes rather than worrying about it being a perfect photo, if that makes sense. The other thing that has changed for me is the fact that I'm not going to say I hated family photos beforehand, but let's just say family photos are probably one of my least favorite times throughout the day, especially just because like family photos to me were just always so posed and so like rigid and really trying to get what people wanted and all of the different things. And then also like make mom and grandma happy and all of like it just family photos aren't my favorite thing. And they still aren't. They really genuinely still aren't my favorite thing. But I have come to realize some of the photos that we will continuously cherish for the rest of our lives 50 years down the road are those group family photos. They're the photos with my mom and dad. They're the photos with my grandma, mom and dad, like the big group family photo that my grandma's probably going to print and put on her wall. Those are going to be the photos that in 50 years we are still going to look back on and still appreciate just for the aspect of all of the family being in the photo. It's the posed photo. I'm a very candid and documentary photographer, and family photos still kind of irk me, but from going through it myself, it just genuinely kind of reshaped my mindset. And I have a lot more grace with family photos now too, I would say. With if a bride wants to spend 45 minutes doing family photos and that's genuinely what they want and not just what their mom wants, we're going to do that. We are going to get those memories, cherish those photos, all of the things like that. Just really reshaped my mindset around kind of the importance of family photos and why we want them. The next thing I will talk about is as a photographer, like I said earlier, I really allowed in our wedding day timeline time for those small moments and time for those genuine reactions to happen and just like for time for things to slow down. So now the way that I approach like my clients when we're doing our timeline meeting is that aspect that if they really like in their wedding questionnaire, they highlighted the fact that like they care about those small moments, they care about the candid stuff. And most of the time, if they're hiring me as their photographer, they really do. That if they care about those and those are important to them, that we need to make sure their timeline allows for them. That we're not cramming in a million things, that I'm not pulling them away 100 times to go and take portraits or go and do things like that. That if they want photos of them interacting with their guests, they need to be there for cocktail hour type of thing so that they can interact with their guests while people aren't shoving food in their mouths during the reception or they're getting swept away doing a million other things and stuff like that. That like if that is something that's important to you, you need to allow for the time to be there for it. So that's another different approach that I guess I've had, really just emphasizing that like not being afraid as a photographer to emphasize the importance of like a timeline and then a timeline that fits your character and everything like that as a couple. Character and important things to you. Like pick your top 2 or 3 important things to you and let's adjust your timeline based off of those. So if you are a bride listening to this, even if you are a photographer, if you are a bride listening to this, your wedding is coming up, I have some advice for you. And also for you photographers, I have some tidbits of advice for you if you haven't already gathered it kind of throughout the rest of the episode. So my favorite piece of advice that I got was from my dear friend Justine, who had just gotten married the like 2 or 3 weeks prior to me. She texted me the night or the day of my wedding and the night before the day of my wedding. And she said this. She said that one thing that her and David did was every hour they stepped back, they absorbed it all in, and they took time to be in that moment and to really reflect on the hustle and bustle and everything that was going on in that day. Because guys, it is so true that your wedding day flies by. And it will be a day that you will look back on forever and cherish so much. And I really just really hope that it is everything that you've ever dreamed of. So take time, 2 minutes, a minute, I don't care. Take time to step back with your husband every single hour and take it all in. Like, holy cow, this is our wedding day. This is a day surrounded by our favorite people. This is XYZ. Like, what is going on in that moment, what's happening, like really just take the time to absorb it and like lock those memories away because it flies by, absolutely flies by, and just like be super duper intentional with it. My next piece of advice: get serious to yourself about what is important to you with your photographs. If you really care about those candid moments, schedule it in your timeline. If you really care about things being laid back, you need to allow for time for that. If you really care about family portraits, you need to allow enough time for them. If you really care about getting some Pinterest worthy, perfect, amazing couple photos, you need to schedule portraits to not be at noon in the middle of the harsh sunlight or something like that, or have a really great shaded area to be able to go to get those perfect photos that you want. It's just, you need to sit back and prioritize what is most important to you. For me, I wanted those perfect Pinterest worthy, amazing photos. And then I wanted the photos that showed the real, true, raw emotion that Wathan and I were feeling throughout that wedding day. The joy, the excitement, the fact that we were so exponentially in love with each other and all of that. So I had personally, like, I want to say an hour and a half for portraits after our ceremony around the Grand Teton Park. And then I had another 30 minutes for sunset portraits at our Airbnb location. And then I had another 20 minutes for portraits in our second photo change. So, in our second outfit change for our going out photos. So, that was important to me. I really valued pictures of Wathan and I. I valued pictures of us interacting with our parents, with our family, things like that. I told our photographer, I was like, I don't really care about getting 300 photos of my guests walking around. I care about the photos of Wathan and I interacting with the people that were there, because if they were there, we cared. But it was like, these are things that I care about. Portrait photos, like I made a list, and then I was like, these are the photos that I'm like, I could live without. Also, you need to trust your photographer enough to not send them a detailed shot list. You need to trust your photographer enough. For me personally, I trusted Caitlin so much that, like, we had a family photo list and that was it. That was absolutely it. I was like, otherwise, I know that you're going to get the shots throughout the day. And otherwise, like, I'm not going to tell you that you need to go get a shot of the cake, because you're a professional photographer. You're going to go get a shot of the cake. I'm not going to tell you that you need to get shots of our first kiss, because no, duh, you're going to get shots of our first kiss. Now, I did tell her, like, hey, like, this is an important item. Can you include this in detail photos or stuff like that? But you need to trust your photographer enough to trust them to capture the day in the way that you hired them to do. And if you don't, maybe you need to reevaluate who you are hiring as your photographer and ensure that you are putting enough intentional effort into hiring someone that fits your style, fits your goals, and fits your needs. First and foremost, it's really important that you just have a really great match with your photographer. So, for the photographers out there, I have some advice for you. So I think one of the biggest things that being a bride taught me was prioritization of photos, and then having empathy for my clients throughout their day. And really remembering that wedding days can be beautiful, but they can also be a little bit stressful. And really, really, really remembering that, like, I am not only there to be their photographer and capture these amazing moments, but I am also there to be a shoulder to lean on, to be the person that's like, hey, do you need me to kick your mom out of the bridal suite right now? Because she just seems like she's stressing you out. And I will happily, 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 happily be the bad guy if I need to. And just different things like that. Just have so much empathy with your clients, and then really, really just set yourself up for success when it comes to doing that timeline, doing the schedule, everything like that. And as a photographer, you need to be real with your clients. If they have different priorities than what you value as a photographer, you're not going to be aligned with what you want to be doing on that wedding day. You're not going to enjoy that wedding day. If it is a client that they really care about, like, everything being superposed and like everything like that, and you're a very documentary photographer that would rather be a fly on the wall and just be capturing the moments, you need to be real with yourself and the fact that, like, it is not worth it for you to book that client just to get the paycheck. Okay. It is not worth it for you to have to go to a wedding and be miserable and not enjoying yourself and not be able to actually practice your craft and expand your art and everything like that, because all of us have a different view on what art looks like in photography. And so it's really important that you are so real with yourself when you're booking these clients, and that you are honest in the fact that it's not only the client hiring you, but it's you, in a sense, like kind of vetting the clients and making sure that they're the right fit for you as well as a photographer, and that they have their priorities where you have them. Just about the moments throughout the day. The next thing I kind of want to talk about, and I will eventually do a full episode about this, but giving the clients an experience that is unlike any other. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of an amazing, amazing, amazing client experience. It is just like, genuinely, because I've created raving fans as clients, I get more referrals than I have ever gotten, guys. Like, it is insane the amount of referrals that my business runs off of, just because my clients are referring me to their friends and family and other people that they care about. Like, oh, hey, you're looking for a really awesome family photographer? I know a girl. Oh, hey, my best friend just got married. I recommended you. Like, all of that goes back to the client experience that you gave them before booking, during booking, after booking, before their wedding day, and then after their wedding day, the communication that you have, like, about their photos, everything like that, the clear, consistent timeline. And then even after they get their photos, what does that client experience look like? And how are you keeping them engaged with your business? Outside of just like, oh, well, they follow me on social media and they interact with my posts. That's not good enough. You need to find better ways. And we will talk more about that. But I really want you to just like kind of sit down and think about what your client experience looks like right now, and challenge yourself to try and like kind of think of different ways that you can improve that client experience to really serve your bride and groom on their wedding day, because that genuinely is one of the biggest days of their life. And as photographers, we are with them the entire day. We are with them more than their bridal party is with them. We are with them more than, sometimes we are with them more than their spouse is with them on their wedding day, because maybe they're getting ready separate or stuff like that. So really evaluate different ways that you can be serving your clients that aligns with you as a photographer and with your mission of like, this is the way that I want my photos to feel. This is the way that I want my client experience to feel. Maybe you want a client experience that is really soft, really calm, really nonchalant, really like, I am here for you, but like, I'm not going to be all up in your business. I am here if you need anything, like really just like calm. Maybe you want a client experience that is hype. Maybe you want to be like, oh my gosh, you are engaged. I'm so excited for you. Let's get your engagement photos done. Like, and that's awesome too. There's a place for both. But get real with what that client experience looks like. Make sure it aligns with your personality, and really challenge yourself to like sit down right now. Like, my challenge for you getting off of this is to sit down, go through your client experience and be like, okay, this is currently what it looks like. These are the steps that we go through, and where are areas that I am lacking, can improve. And don't be afraid to ask past clients, like, hey, were there any areas in the experience that we had that you felt like, for me as a photographer, I could have been better at? If you can't take constructive criticism, don't ask that question. You're going to get your feelings hurt. But I think it's really important to just be real with yourself and find areas that you can continue to improve, continue to educate yourself, continue to push, all of those different things. And yeah, that is a little bit about just my experience as a bride, different ways that it has changed my viewpoint, and all of the things. Seriously, our wedding was the best day ever. I loved it so much. And there was a lot of intentionality that went into making it such a beautiful day and such a perfect day in our minds. So if you are a bride to be, all of the things, really, really take what I said to heart. If you're a photographer, I hope that different things that we talked about made you kind of at least said some thought-provoking things that got you thinking and different things like that. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of The Next Generation Cowboy Creative Style. If you guys love this podcast, run down below to the comments, leave us a 5-star review, all the things. If you have any questions, DMs are always open. Would love to chat with you guys more about anything. If you have questions that you want me to answer on the podcast, send those over, all the things. We have some really exciting things planned for the rest of 2024, and then some amazingly exciting things planned for the rest of 2025, and going into the new year, the new retreat, all of the things. Just be on the lookout for all of that information coming very, very soon. I cannot wait to chat with you guys more. Have an amazing week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.